Hello, 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 fine homies of the Secrets for Success Summit. I'm Dr. Shante Cofield, and today we are flipping the script. And I've brought on the brains behind the operation, the mastermind who put this incredible ordeal together. I'm not sure if she knows how big of a deal this is, because this is just like normal for her. But we're flipping the script, we're passing the mic, and I am interviewing the one and only Dr. Sarah Duvall. Welcome.
Thank you so much for doing this. I'm so excited to be in the hot seat.
This is like a no-brainer, and I can't believe that it was like maybe not going to happen. Like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, this has to happen. So I want to jump right in because I have a bunch of questions that I personally and selfishly want to ask you. So I figured we'd start off with the very traditional question of you giving us your story, but I want to kind of flip it a little bit. And for those who maybe are under a rock, been living under a rock, and don't know you, haven't heard of you, if someone was to pose the question, who is Dr. Sarah Duvall? What would you want said?
I am an adventure sports athlete. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a physical therapist, and I'm a personal trainer, and I specialize in women's health.
Was that order intentional, or just you've said it so many
times? No, it's probably intentional. I don't know.
I love it. Give me some background here. So you said adventure sports athlete first. Give me some background. Give me some background on, because today we're sitting here, you're putting on a massive summit. You have a just booming business. You're incredibly well known in the space. I'm just to say the space in general, but how did you get there? What's the story? Back it up for me.
So, if you can take the bad things that happen in life or the challenging moments, the adversity, I often find you can turn those into the best things. And so that's how I got here. It wasn't this, oh, I'd like to start this little business. It was, I need this. So I had an in-person practice in Charleston, South Carolina. My husband is in biotech, and his company got bought out. He lost his job. Nobody in South Carolina wants to hire scientists. So he ended up getting a job in Virginia. We ended up in another small town, Blacksburg, where Virginia Tech is. That was great. All right. I tried to stay home because I was 3 months pregnant with my first when he lost his job, and we moved when I was 8 months pregnant. So I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to stay home. Around 6 months, I started going crazy. I was like, I've got to see patients. I can't take it. So I went back to work, started another cash pay physical therapy practice, and got to the point of just barely having a wait list. We weren't even there 2 years. And he lost his job again. Okay. So this time, instead of crying, I laughed because I was like, this is hilarious. And then we ended up in Boston, Massachusetts, and he got a job at Moderna 8 years ago, which we all know how that turned out. So he feels like he got his bucket list for helping society. And I was done. I was like, I started from scratch again. And I was like, I can't do it. I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to start in another town where nobody knows me. No one has heard of me. And I've got to make my first, it's great, but it's also painful. I mean, to go through that startup process so many times. So the third time I started the startup process, I was like, I'm also starting online. So I started parallel. So I started writing blogs. I started my online business. I had previously toyed around with an online business before we moved to Boston. So I'd started online there, but it wasn't until we moved that I really hunkered down and got serious about it because it was thrown in my face. And I was like, I've got to do this. And so I started writing my blogs. I put together a pelvic floor program. It was 3 workouts and a little bit of education, and ran some ads and sold 10 seats, which was so exciting for me. Like I got 100 people on the list and sold 10 seats. And
a great conversion rate, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I mean, it was pretty early in the industry because that was 8 years ago. So wasn't a whole lot of programs out there, but needless to say, it worked putting yourself out there. But I also built an in-person business at the same time, another cash pay physical therapy business. And it just kind of grew together. But the problem is I didn't have enough time to really focus, and I needed to cut back to 20 hours a week in person to then be able to really grow my online business. And so my husband was so supportive, and he was like, go ahead, do it. It is really expensive to live in Cambridge, Massachusetts, like really.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
And we needed two incomes, and he was like, just do it. And we lived off of savings for things like being able to take a vacation. We had a 3-bedroom townhouse with carpet, and it was almost $4,000 a month for everyone.
I was trying to do the math. I'm like, 3 bedrooms, that's a mansion.
Yeah, it's a mansion, but we had kids, and it was
like, whoa, I'm like, this must have been expensive. Okay, yes.
But it was, but it was, it had carpet. I'm like, oh. but you know what I'm saying is like, that was almost $4,000 a month. And then daycare for kids so that I could work when I wasn't bringing in money on the online space. Like, that was some trust. Yes. So I had somebody in my corner that was like, just do it. I believe in you. Stick this out. And so it gave me that incentive of, you know what, I want to take a vacation again that's not out of savings. Yeah. And so it lit that fire. And I also wanted to be able to help women all over the world, because there weren't rehab professionals and even trainers that help specialize in this in every corner of the world. And I would have women message me, and they were like, I live in Dubai, or I live in the middle of Africa. And it was heartbreaking to me. So I'm like, I can't send you anywhere. Here, let me give you this program. And I do a heavy discounted rate for third world countries. But it was this just drive to help get the information out there, but also this drive to be able to make ends meet for my own family and be able to provide in a way that we needed providing.
I have so many questions. I wrote them all down. I actually want to go in order for this because I want to make sure that we get to this one. It's a little bit of an offshoot from business per se, but I think that it's going to be super relevant to people that are listening. You moved your life, I don't want to say for your partner, but with your partner multiple times. Can you just speak to that dynamic? And you said it at the end there about the trust, because then it flipped and he was like, leave, or, go back to 20 hours. Can you just talk about the trust and the partnership that exists? And you can just say your own personal story that allowed for all of this to be where you're at right now.
I think that is really special, and I think it's hard to come by. And when we were first dating, before we were even engaged, he was finishing his PhD, and he's like, I hate academia. He's like, but the biotech world is really uncertain. And I was like, I'm already cash pay. Like, I'm good with uncertain. Let's do it.
Clearly.
So I think from day one, we both had that. You pursue your dreams. I'm going to support you.
Incredible. It's incredible. Incredible, Sarah. Like, I don't have any, obviously advice around that, but I really wanted to make sure that came out of that story, because that is like.
And I know not everybody has that. And I work with so many women wanting to start their own programs now, and they don't have the support at home, and they've got kids full time, and they're trying to work, and they don't have anybody backing them up. They don't have that spouse that says, let's spend our savings on your ad money, and that's so hard. And I see that.
Yes. What do you say to them?
I don't know. I mean, I tell them it's hard.
There's obviously tremendous value in this acknowledging.
Yeah, it's just saying this is just really hard, and you should be really proud of yourself for everything that you're doing, and you should just take off that weight of perfectionism, because you're not going to be able to do it all, and it is really hard. And so that's all you can say, right?
That's it. I think it's important, because it's not said, and people will literally just beat themselves up and be like, why can't I do it? And it's like, it's completely different circumstances. So let's acknowledge that, and the amount of time more time that it may take, and the increased effort that it may take in order to get there.
Yeah. Sorry, and be gracious. Yeah. Being gracious with yourself. Like, not being hard on yourself while you're in the middle of that process. It is so hard.
Big time. Big time. You said multiple businesses you've run, multiple in person. I kind of want to tap on that for a second, because our backgrounds tie into what we're currently doing, right? Nothing is, in my opinion, wasted. It all builds on itself. And so you've had multiple brick and mortar in-person businesses. One of the things you just kind of slipped in there was that they were cash. This means you were doing this before the cash-based renaissance, before the cash-based revolution. Can you speak to that, whether it was how you come up with this idea, what that actually looked like? You were also doing it in South Carolina. So I'm like, what?
I was a personal trainer first, and then I was an athlete before that. And I've just always loved the personal training model. So for me, it was like, I got this degree, but I really hated khaki pants. I just hated it. And I hated the way the clinic worked. And so I worked as a personal trainer through PT school. I charged people $55 an hour, which through South Carolina, that it was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a decent amount.
Mhm.
Not like here. I mean, here, that's not a thing, but it's all relative. But it was a lot for the area. And I worked my way through PT school as a personal trainer. And so I already had the mindset of people pay for this.
Totally.
And so it wasn't really that hard because I already was in that environment.
I am going to do my best to continue to tease out the things that have come so naturally to you that really contribute to your success that are not so natural.
Now, I am not going to recommend working through PT school because I had a couple panic attacks and stress things where it was not good. I mean, I saw clients before school. I saw clients on my lunch break. Like sometimes I would see a client in the 1 hour I had for lunch, and then I would be eating, walking to class, or I'd be eating in class, and I'd see them after class. Like it was not healthy.
Why?
I paid for PT school.
To pay for, so the reasoning was like, yo, I'm going to pay for PT school.
Yeah. So I didn't come out with a ton of debt, and I got experience, and the teacher would talk about something in class and I would go and apply it to somebody. And I felt like the information really resonated, and I really enjoyed working with people, and I enjoyed having that outlet where I wasn't just sitting in class. So there's so many aspects of it that I enjoyed, but it was probably but that's probably the story of my life. I launched a certification program when I had a 6-month-year-old. So I think that's probably the story of my life, is learning how to not take on so much at one time.
I mean, the flip side of that, this is the both end of the conversation, right? It is you, and there's the both end of rest and slow down, things like that, but also like Sarah gets things done because Sarah gets things done. And this is
one piece of advice I'd love to give people that find themselves like me in that very sympathetic drive state where you do get a lot done, but you do end up burning out, is I like to set a finish line. I'd like to set a purposeful finish line. It's really easy online because you have products and launches and things like that, like you're building something.
Yeah.
And then plan a rest period after the finish line before I start my next project. Because if you think about sports and athletics, we all have our season for peaking, and then we have some recovery time. If not, our body breaks down and we get injured. And so if we think about our mind the same way that we would apply to sports, why aren't we setting finish lines and giving ourselves recovery periods?
Deadlines are magic. I love this. I actually that's one of the things I wrote down. I want to go into that. You said that you still took vacations. They came from savings, but you still took them.
Vacations are very important to our family.
Okay.
It's like the one thing we've always done. Yeah.
Both of you just agreed on this from the beginning, and it was like this, we work, and then we'll also make sure that
we drive Subarus. Okay.
Of course you do.
Our whole budget,
of course,
is spent on vacation money. I was like, we are going to take vacation and have experiences and live life. And we don't care what kind of car we drive back and forth. I mean, I wouldn't mind an Audi, but maybe one day. But I feel like it changes her life more to spend the money on experiences.
I love this. I love that it's always just been a thing that you prioritize. And it makes sense. Again, things building on each other. It makes sense that as an athlete, you understood that like there's the peaking in the season, there's the off season.
Oh, no. It took me years to figure it to me.
Oh, okay.
Way too long to figure that out.
Let's learn from Sarah and maybe not let it take us years and years, and then we can lean into that. Because realistically, you find that you get more done when you do things. So if we are looking at it from a productivity perspective, like you will get more things done by having
even in a day, even in one day. So if I take a walk or I have something where I have my other outlet, I'm more productive even within that one day or within that week.
100%. Sarah, I want to continue with this, your brick and mortar. Actually, I have two questions, but we'll do the segue one next. First, the brick and mortars, the cash-based, what were they niched down? Were they specializing in anything? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So cash pay generally is going to mean 65 plus, unless you have a specialty area. I was just orthopedic PT, so I is 65 plus. So I saw a lot of people where I thought, really wish you had started to address this sooner. It would have been a lot easier road for you. And then that's part of what led me into women's health too. That's part of what was that push, is because I saw a lot of women where I was like, if we could have worked on this 20 years ago, we would not be where we are now dealing with this really big problem. And so it really made me want to do preventative health. And honestly, the first thing I put out was this whole like total body, feel good, fix all your issues before they in which nobody wants preventative. It's like, okay, I've got a new strategy.
Prevention doesn't sell. Let's go into that. Because you said that you, like, I think the third time you're like, yeah, I'm going to do this online as well because like it's in my face here. But you said you started blogging.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about that? Why was that the go-to and what did that actually look like?
So one of my mentors started an online business and he was wildly successful, but he was an engineer and he sold a centrifuge for making vegetable oil into fuel.
Oh.
Anyway, so he invented something and sold it online, but he really got heavy into the online space. So like went to all these big summits and conferences and got into all the online sales stuff. And so he ended up making, I mean, just kudos of money. But anyway, he was also a kiteboarder. So we would just chat at the beach and we had our same friend circle. And he was like, Sarah, you've got to start a blog. You've got to start sending a newsletter. And this was back, let me think about when I got married, because this was back before I got married. So this was 2010.
Ooh.
Yeah. And he just kept pushing and pushing. And I was like, okay, fine. So I started a blog and a little newsletter for just my patients in the area. And it was great. I'd send it out once a month. I'd be like, here's some things to help your plantar fasciitis. And then inevitably somebody would email back and they'd be like, oh, the bottom of my foot has been hurting. And I'm like, great, come in and get an appointment. So it was a great way for me to continue reaching out to the people that I saw maybe a year ago or 2 years ago to come back in for a visit. And so I saw the immediate effects of it. So then it reinforced itself for me to keep doing it.
Tell me more about this, the mentor, because I was not expecting that he was like an engineer and doing things with centrifuges.
Yeah. I mean, you can find a mentor anywhere, right? But he pushed me so hard. He's like, you need to go online. You need to start online programs. And so he actually, with this other guy, we put together this little tennis thing. It was hilarious looking back on it. And they like signed up for clicks and they got, I mean, hundreds of people to sign up, but then we never ended up doing anything with it. But they just pushed the ads and they're like, there's something here. You need to look into this. So that was my start into online stuff, was somebody who was doing it in a different area and then kept telling me there's so much potential here. You need to get online. You need to start an online business. And at that time I didn't, because it was all I could handle just to learn how to use Aweber. But the idea was there and the intention stuck with me. And honestly, trying to learn how to use Aweber about killed me for where I was at that point.
Yeah.
Because it was also hard that I was learning. I learned how to build a WordPress site. I learned how to use Aweber. I learned how to embed things. I learned how to do all the tech stuff myself. And it stretches you. So what I realized is that when norepinephrine is released, it is painful. It is painful when you are faced with something you don't know and you are in the growth process of learning. It actually causes, I feel, physical pain. So if you can embrace that, instead of shying away from it, like, oh, I don't understand that, or, oh, I can't do that, or, oh, I don't get that. If you just can step into that and be like, I can learn, and open yourself up to sitting with the process, even though it's uncomfortable, then you can just grow and learn and expand. And so now I've gotten to the point where if anything feels a little uncomfortable, I'm like, ooh, this is great. I'm like, oh, uncomfortable feels good. I love it. But you don't start out that way. You don't start out enjoying, but it's kind of like a runner, right? The first time somebody runs, you're like, oh my God, this is horrible. Why would anybody do this? And then before you know it, you're like sprinting to the finish of a 5K and the burn is so great, but you're like, I love the burn.
Oh, you sign up for the next marathon right as soon as that one's done. You're
yeah,
like,
so the mental,
you're like, but I love it.
Yeah, the mental is the same way. And I feel like so many people want to learn, but when they step into it, they get overwhelmed. It's so much. And instead of really, diving in and just picking one thing and trying to learn it and just assuming that they're a smart person and they're going to get it, because look at your history. You've learned other things in your life. You made it through school. Like you can learn this too. You just got to take some time and give yourself some space.
That word right there, time. That's what I've written down here.
Mhm.
One of the first things you said with starting these businesses, it was that you needed it to work, but there,
Mhm.
the way that you're telling the story and what I'm hearing, there wasn't this same level of urgency that I hear from other people. It's like you needed it to work, but can you speak to the timeline of this? Because also, like, you're talking about learning things and learning how to basically be a
Mhm.
coder, like use a WordPress website, like Sarah
Mhm.
is a coder.
Yeah.
What did that feel like and look like for you in terms of like, were you like, I gotta learn this thing in 5 seconds. I also have kids and like,
So
that
all
look.
of it, so it built, which I think was so helpful. So back in 2010, when I started my little blog on my WordPress site and started sending out my email newsletters to my clients, and then I started teaching continuing education, I'd get everybody's emails when I would teach, and then I'd put them on my newsletter list when I got home and just hope they wrote clearly enough for me to get their email right. So I learned how to do that. I already had my little website. And then I decided I wanted to write a book when we were living in Virginia. So I spent a lot of mornings trying to work on writing this book. It didn't end up doing anything with it, but it helped me organize thoughts. And then I kept, you kept doing, so it was like everything built, but it wasn't until we moved again that I was like, I'm done. And then when I cut back my hours in person and I was like, okay, I need this, that I feel like the fire really got lit for like, oh, I need to do this now.
Did you have specific timelines, deadlines, like I need this to work by X, or I have to learn this thing today? What was that like?
No, I don't like putting, so I don't like really setting goals. I know that sounds weird because I'm a
Dude,
very
that's I'm the
goal-oriented
same way.
person, but
I'm
as
the
soon
same
as I
way.
set a goal, it's usually one that I've already like I'm hitting next week.
Yeah.
And I mean, I always know the direction I'm moving,
Yes.
but I
Yes.
think that knowing the direction you're moving and knowing your intention is very different than setting it. And I always have a plan, like I'm building X course and here working backwards from when I want it to launch. I need to get all of these modules done. So I can be very organized and purposeful with my planning for my schedule, but I don't like, I'm going to make $5,000 on this date by this
Huge,
program
Sarah.
because I don't
This
feel
is
like
huge.
that's helpful.
This is huge. This, everything that you're saying, and I, as a coach and people, and I'm coaching people in this is huge in terms of managing expectations and the fact that you have intentionality and directionality with things and a plan for things. But I see urgency start to come out. People are like, it has to work by tomorrow. I have to learn how to do this thing in 3 minutes or else I'm a failure. There's all these other things that are tied in, and you just didn't have that.
No, I don't like catastrophizing thoughts. I
I mean, yes, good.
don't know. I've done so many sports. I mean, I picked up kiteboarding and when we lived in Charleston, and I was like, you know what? I think I want to become a sponsored kiteboarder. And about 6 months later, I was a sponsored kiteboarder. But I just kind of worked my way into it. And it was like, all right, this is, kind of fun. And then, but everything you do in life, when you kind of set that intention and then you go after something, it teaches you that you can set another intention and you can go after something else. But you also learn it doesn't happen immediately and it takes strategy and it's a process.
This is like will likely be revelatory for people who, especially with the way that things are marketed out there in the online space, because it almost,
Yeah.
coaches will put things out there to make it seem like if you follow this plan to the T, then you're going to have $10,000 a month in 5 seconds, and like then people don't have that, and they're like, ah, instead of taking this approach and this intentionality in this direction and being like, okay, this is where I want to go. It doesn't have to happen by X date, but I'm working towards this. I'm putting each thing in place. And the word used before was building. I love that you're like literally stacking things on top of each other. I love that. So I want to go into this online, I want to continue down this path rather with the online programs and the success that you've had there. Let's zoom out and then we'll zoom in. Can you give us an overview of just the online programs that you have? Because you have like 11 billion, but like the online programs that you have, and then we can kind of go into actually creating them and what that looks like.
So I started with programs for women. It was, something like 3 workouts to help your pelvic floor, or it was, something like that. I think I called it Pelvic Floor Perfect because I like alliterations. But it was, it was my first program. And then I ventured into dialysis and did a program for that. And then I'm like, you know what? I really need a membership. And so then I just put it together in a membership. And then I was like, was I thinking? I've got to keep producing content for membership. But then I grew the membership to almost 1,000 people in the membership. And then I was like, you know what? I'm having a lot of success. I'm helping women everywhere, even online. And I'm seeing all these things in person that I felt I wanted to get out because I felt like I was a bridge between pelvic floor, physical therapy, and traditional, occupational therapy, and not just, traditional, whatever, rehab and training and stuff like that. So I was kind of bridging that gap, and I was like, I want to get that gap out there. So then that's when I thought I'm going to make a pregnancy and postpartum certification program, because I want to see the stuff happen and I want to see it implemented from a different perspective. And then that led me into making more continuing education courses. And now we have backed off of our layperson programs, and we're no longer offering that, because I wanted to fully 100% support the people that I am coaching. Because all the people going through the PCES, like half of them are like, oh, I want to start this online program for women. And here I'm pouring my heart out to them. And here's all the things that I'm giving them. And then I realized I want to support you in that. Yes. And I want to be a teacher, because I've always loved teaching, from setting the stuffed animals up in my room when I was in second grade and teaching them and grading their papers. Like, I just love to teach. And so then when I finally figured out I own my passion, and I was like, teaching is my passion. And then I was like, I felt in conflict, where I'd be like, oh, I want to support you, but then, hey, here, buy my program to the other delay. Do you know what I mean? It just didn't feel good to me. I wanted to be able to, when somebody reaches out to me, email, I want to be to say, go see this PCS grad. They're amazing. And then that to me felt like genuine full support.
100%. Before I go into I want to ask you about like actually structuring these things and making these things for my own nosiness. So you're starting off going what we call B2C, right? Business to consumer. Mm-hmm. How do you help get people through things? Like when you go B2B, or you go to like learner to learner, people will like not saying most, but many people will like, I'll watch it because I'm interested in this thing. Mm. When you're going to the layperson, they're busy and they have a million kids and a
pain points though. They have pain points. I mean, for the world I'm in women's health, they're leaking. They want their abs to be better. They want their prolapse to be resolved. They are in a world of pain. So you speak to pain points.
And then from the actual structure and the delivery, did you make things shorter,
Yes. Not shorter, because I find that even professionals like to consume things in 10 to 20-minute videos. So not shorter, but just in more lay terms, less anatomy, less digging into the why, because professionals want to know why. Oh, how did you get there? Why are you thinking that way? And then I can go down that rabbit hole with them, and then they can be like, oh, so then that applies over here. And I'm like, yes. And then we can make connections. But when you're dealing with a layperson, you're like, no, I just want you to contract in this way. I want you to try to move in this way. I want you to feel in this way. So you don't go down the why rabbit holes.
Love it. Huge distinction, super important. I love that. So let's keep going with that. In terms of actually creating the course, how much time does it take? How do you organize it? Like, give me your brain.
Okay, so I took Todd Herman's 90-day course. Have you heard of Todd Herman?
No.
Okay, so he's in the business space. I would say most of my mentors have been in the business space, but I took his 90-day course, and I think it's still up for sale. But what it taught me how to do, which I was already kind of doing, but it really just put it into action, was how to work backwards really efficiently. How to say, okay, here's what I want, how to lay it out. And when I go to set up a course, you did a term paper in high school, right? Of
course.
Did you do a little note card system? Do you have your little box in your note cards? Okay, well, for everybody listening to this, it had the little note card. You probably did it on a computer. I don't know how old you are.
I'm 38. Sorry, I didn't have note cards.
So I had a little note card box, and you had your title page, and then you had your subheading, and you had your headings, and then you had so when you're thinking about that term paper, you divide it into categories and then subcategories, and then you write descriptions under each category. That's how you build a course. You build a course like you write a term paper, because a course is a term paper. It's this exercise that's going to be under this category. And then as soon as you can grasp that, it's super easy to build a course.
How many iterations do you do of a course?
So the first public floor program I did, I've redone it 3 times. The PCS course, I'm on PCS, the big pregnancy postpartum certification. I'm now on the 2.0 version. And I am
completely revamped.
And I'm already considering 3.0 because I'm like, oh, I need to talk about this and I need to talk about that. And you know what? I learn stuff every year. Dang it. If only I could quit learning, then I wouldn't feel the need to redo courses. But I'm like, I know something different now. Or my
Right.
thinking has changed because I've worked with people that are a little bit different, or somebody gave me some insight when I was trying to figure out something on their body. And that was just such a big aha moment for me for making a connection. And then I just want to teach it because I'm like, I need to teach this. So
Totally. I mean, there's 2 points there, and one of them is a question. One is that for those of you watching, like your first iteration is not your last. I think that stops people. They're like, I don't put it out, it's not perfect, and like I have more things I want to say. And so I was like, then I made another version.
and then I made another one, and then I made another course, and then it's never going to be perfect. That's the advice I give my ladies too, is I'm like, get it out, just do something and pick something small. Pick a really, really small pain point, do like a 4-week thing, do a 6-week thing, figure out how to do a launch, figure out how to do a tiny little you don't have to give the kitchen sink. They're like, I want to do this massive total body, blah, blah, blah. It's an entire, and I'm like, no. Start really small. Do the tiny thing, offer it for the small amount, learn the process.
That was actually my next question.
Take another step.
How do you cut it down? Because people tend to have so many ideas. They create this behemoth of a course, or they want to. Do you have any suggestions or strategies?
The people, if they're listening to you right now that have taken the PCES course, they're laughing at you because they're like, it's too long and too big. It's 34 hours with another like 30 hours of bonus content. You don't have to watch the bonus content, people. It's just there if you want to. So yeah, no, that's a real problem I have. And I am working on that. And when I put together Pelvis Pro, it is 25 hours and it has like 1 hour bonus video. So that's it. I was really succinct. I was like, I'm going to get to the point. I'm not going to, so it's a struggle's real.
I love this, that you're leaning into, and this kind of actually brings me to the next question. You're leaning into you, into how you are. I think nothing that stops people is that they'll see how someone else presents or how someone else does things, and they'll just be like, I have to do it that way, even though it's completely different from how they are. And then they're like, I can't do it. And so they don't do it at all.
Yeah, but I feel like people try to skip steps. So I have taught a lot of in-person continuing education classes. I taught my first in-person continuing ed class in 2007. It was on the shoulder mechanics. And then I taught one on the hip the next year. And then, so I've been teaching continuing because I love to teach. So that was literally, I was like, I'm going to teach a course because I love it. And so I feel like I got the reps in with what I wanted to do. And I saw the in-person people. So what I think I hesitate with is when somebody says, I want to create a program, but I've never worked with anybody. And so they have so then they're like, I'm not sure what to put together because then they don't have that experience to back up. So I really recommend actually getting some reps with different people, working with people, and then you'll know what to say because you have broken it down for that client. And then you'll know exactly how to say it because then you just picture who you're speaking to. You speak to that person, but you got to have that person to speak to.
That I love that. Would you say that is the special sauce? We use that phrase that makes your courses are insanely popular. They do incredibly well. Is there a secret sauce? Is there a special sauce?
I think that if I had a secret sauce, it is because I am not super smart, is my secret sauce. I mean, I'm smart enough, don't get me wrong, but I am not the smartest person in the room. There are people in our industry that are so much smarter than me, like Ron from the PRI. Okay. They're just mind-blowingly smart. But I feel like my secret sauce is it takes me a little while to understand concepts, but when I get it, and then I can teach it. And because it took me some pain, like that for those neurotransmitters, because it took me some pain to get through that learning process to really be able to see it 3D in my mind. I'm one of those kinesthetic people. Like if I can see it, once I see it, I've got it. And so to really be able to see it and apply it, then I can break it down into something simple that then my 6-year-old can understand. So I feel like that's my secret sauce. It's not being the smartest person in the room.
I love that reframe. And it makes complete and total sense, right? That speaks to the concept of it's not what you know, it's what they learn. And however you get to that point so that they can learn more and learn better, learn easier, learn faster. That's magic.
Yeah, I've got to turn it over a bunch before I grasp it. But then when I get it, I'm like, oh, I can simplify this.
I love that. So if you had to summarize then, and someone was like, because to me, you're like the queen of online programs, the queen of online making these kinds of things. If someone was new in the space and they're wanting to put a program out, they don't know where to start, they don't know what to do, what would you say?
I would say find the person that they want to help in person and put that program together for that person. Because then you've got your avatar. You can build on your avatar. So what I did was I put out my first program, right? That pelvic floor program, got 100 people on the list for my ads. I don't remember what I spent. It wasn't, I had money in that revenue at that point in time was really cheap compared to now.
I can't even believe you did this. I'm like, I feel like there's ads then. Like
I paid somebody to teach me how to do ads. I saw this online person. She was $300 an hour. I sat down with her for 2 hours over time, and she taught me how to do ads, how to do A/B testing and ads, how to do. And so I was like, I'm just going to learn this. And so I got those 10 people that signed up for my program. I got on the phone with every single one of them. And I said, who are you? So what do you do? Do you have children? What's your profession? What's your hobbies? What do you like? Just talk to me so I can hear your language. Give me your pain points. What are your biggest complaints? And then I used that. So I took that interview, wrote down everything. I interviewed every single one of those women. And then I took that data and then I re-put that back into my language for my sales page, for my advertising, for my programs, because I worked through the programs with them. And then as I worked through it with them in the group, I was able to address their questions. So like, oh, they have this question. And then I made a mental note for my next program. Oh, I need to include this. So I think the only way you can figure out how to do it is to just do it.
it's phenomenal. It is really cool to hear. That's why I love that you're running the summit. It is really cool to hear how in it and involved you are in it. I think that when we hear about online programs, people tend to want to make them, not for the reasons that you said earlier about like, someone from Africa needs help. It's that they're sold the golden goose of passive revenue, and they kind of want to be really removed from it. So it's really cool to
But then
hear.
how are they going to make a program? I mean, you can step away from it, it can become passive, but in that process, you've got to have that passion and that presence and that. Yeah.
It's really cool to hear this and to be privy to like this part of your story in terms of like just how in it you are. You got on the phone with every single person.
Well, and
What?
at that point too, I just learned about slow lanes and fast lanes. And
Like,
I mean, you just don't know my marketing routes that I've gone down for learning, and then how all of those, build in and then change your strategies. So.
I want to go into a little bit more here, because you were doing these things on your own. You said you hired this person just for like a consult on how to do these things. You have a team now.
But I
What does
didn't.
that look like? Can you talk about that process? Then have the
Sure,
shift.
yeah. Bringing people in. Yeah. So I started completely alone, which in and of itself is really hard. But I had somebody who became a friend who also wanted to build her own program. And so sometimes we would work side by side, and that was great. And just to have that kind of camaraderie, because you do feel really alone. And then I hired somebody to help me with my bookkeeping because I am terrible. I will save up to the end of the year and I will try to upload. I'm like, what is that receipt from again? I don't remember. So now I have somebody who does bookkeeping. That was one of my first hires, which I think was great. Came recommended to me by my accountant. She was like, you need a bookkeeper. And then I hired somebody to help me with emails because I get really, really irritated when people don't read directions because I feel like it's not respectful of your time. And I'm a big time respect person. I always show up early. I don't like to keep people waiting. And when somebody does simple, I get very angry and I like to do screenshots and circle. And so
screenshots.
Yeah. So
get them.
Yeah. So I hired an email person, and my email person now, she's amazing. She's so incredibly just sweet and kind. And she's like, Sarah, stay away from email because you can't screenshot things. It's very rude.
As per the screenshot, this is what I said.
I'm like, it was in the email you replied to, just right here, line 2. I'm like, I'm going to kill you. No, I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to deep breath. I'm going to breathe. I can handle this. I can do this. Literally, that was the hardest part of business for me, was the dealing with the people who directions. So I hired somebody to help me with email. That was my second hire after a bookkeeper because it was my sanity
a good one.
or my company. So
that was a good hire. What does that process look like? How did you find the people? What is that?
Yeah. So most of my people have either come through recommendations from other people in the space. I have tried outside the space some, but it did not work out all that well for me. And then most of my kind of best hires, honestly, were done before I had the space for them. My head PT who works closely with me, I call her my work wife. So Anna is amazing. Anna bought my program way back. And then she just started commenting in the group. And I was like, whoa, that was a good comment.
Yeah.
And so I was like, hey, and she was like, oh yeah, I'm a PT. And she was an orthopedic PT. And she's like, I loved your program and, I'm enjoying it. And I was like, can I pay you for an hour of your time a day to kind of hop in the group and just, answer questions and stuff? And she's like, yeah, that'd be great. She loves working. And then it went from there. And then she was like, I'm kind of looking at this part-time job. I was like, I could make part-time space for you. So then I brought her on 20 hours a week, which was a leap at the time. And then we started talking, okay, do you want to come on full time? And we literally talked about her coming on full time for a year before we made it happen.
Okay.
But it was one of those things where when you're presented with somebody who you just really click well with, you do it, even if you grow the business to meet the person. And that has happened so many times in the group with people who have buy-in. They buy into you. They have buy into your process. They have buy into your company. Like those are the people that are the ones that are already showing the enthusiasm that you just want to keep bringing them in because you know that they're going to be good. I had a customer send me an email and tell me that my landing page was complete crap and that it was amazing. Anybody bought the program. And she swears that she did it in a very nice way, but she laid out bullet points. She circled things on my website. She did screenshots.
I was like, hey.
I'm like, you are speaking my language.
Screenshots.
I hired her. I asked her if she wanted a job. She is my right-hand organization person. She is I call her my, herding cats. Like she is my project manager. She runs everything in the back end of the company. And she's amazing. But I was like, this person needs to be in my life.
I have two questions from this. I'm going to write one of them down. Mm-hmm. Does this feel overwhelming? Your team sounds big. Is there overwhelm there? I know that can actually stop some people because they're like, I don't ever want to have a big team. I don't want to manage people.
It's terrifying.
Like? Good to know.
It is terrifying because I have these people that depend on me for work. And I wanted to get to $10,000 a month. That was my goal. Because then I could take a vacation. I could support my family. Mm-hmm. I never dreamed of growing to the way that the company has grown. And part of what has pushed that is the team, is because I'm now responsible and I now have this weight of I'm providing jobs. So even if I don't feel like making that Instagram post, I've got somebody whose paycheck next month depends on it. And so that it's a different push than it used to be, but it's still that push there of people that depend on you.
How do I want to ask this? Did that willingness to accept that additional responsibility, did that just evolve? Was that always kind of there?
No, it had to evolve. I've always kind of been a loner, but I needed the help and I was just drowning. So it was the kind of thing where you're in that place and you're drowning and you have to take the risk and you got to go and you've got to hire people, and it worked out. And still sometimes I outpace the team a little bit. So I'm like, I want to put together this program and I want to do all these posts. And they're like, whoa, we can't handle that all at once.
Sarah. I need to hear.
But then I'll go on vacation and they'll be like, oh, she's gone.
How many vacations do you take?
We aim for like 5 to 6 weeks a year. So
was it always that?
Mm-hmm. Always. Even when I had a self-pay practice and taking a vacation cost me so much money. I know you self-cash people out there, trainers and PTs and OTs are listening to this. I took 6 weeks of vacation a year when I had a cash pay practice because it is important for your mental health.
So this is remarkable.
But it costs so much money to take that vacation because you are not getting paid.
You're not getting paid. Yeah. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. But I love that you're really emphasizing this, because what you lose by not taking that vacation, not taking that space, is exponentially more than that money that you feel that you're not making.
I mean, and 6 weeks might be a bit much. I mean, maybe I sit on the Europe side. I don't know. But, I think at least 2
Something
is
though.
a
Yeah,
minimum.
exactly. At least something there.
Yes.
At least something there. I want to just back it up just for a second. I'm trying to think about the people that are watching this, and we tend to, personalities like us, be speaking to folks that are like, I want to start the business, I want to do the thing, I want to lead the thing. But there's also the flip side that listens, and they're like, I want maybe some more freedom, I want like a better work environment. And something that Sarah said in there was really, really just incredible from the flip side of that, of reaching out and providing value for somebody. So I've hired the same way, where it's all been people that have just been in the ecosystem and they're just showing up and they're just amazing and standing out. And you're just like, can I give you money to keep doing it?
That's literally how it's always happened. I mean, there was another mom in my group and she started moderating, and I was like, can I pay you to do what you're doing?
Like,
yeah,
you don't have to run the business. You can lean into the skill set, just show, provide value, and people take notice of those things. I like that, a flip there. So I want to go into one of the additional questions that I had, that speaks to you. And because as I'm hearing you saying that, like, I hired and this thing has to grow, I think some people would be like, why? Like, why?
I ask myself that a lot. That's a great question. Because I do. I'm on the fence. I'm like, I'm good. It actually terrifies me to put myself out there. Like making that next Instagram video, putting out a course, continuing to put yourself out there is terrifying. It is so scary. I mean, maybe not for you, but for us mere mortals,
like, tell me
terrifying.
About this. Tell me more about this, Sarah.
Some of us are scared, okay? So yeah, I don't know. And I have to, it's almost like I come to a crossroads, and I've come to it repeatedly, where I'm like, when things are just happening and you're just in a boat and on a river and you're just continuing to go because the water is flowing. That is how I feel like work has been for me. I don't feel like I've pushed really hard. I feel like I like to work, and I got caught up in the process of working, and I am a good worker. And then when you do the process, the things just continue to go and you hang on for the ride. So that's kind of how I feel like. I have never been like, oh, I want to be here and I want to be doing this or teaching at this conference or, this Instagram. Never, ever, ever. I have always been like, I am scared, but I'm going to focus on the process because that makes me feel safe to have that plan of action that I'm doing. So if you just focus on that, then it just takes care of itself, and you're on this rocket or this raft or whatever, and it's just happening, and you're just like, well, I guess I'll just go along with it.
Yeah. I love that distinction. You're not swimming upstream. Like, I actually like to use water in there as well. It's like very much like,
yeah, no, I don't feel like I've swam upstream ever in my business. I feel like I've just been hanging on, trying not to fall out.
She's in the rapids.
Exactly.
I wanted to keep going with that, is one of the things that, if you folks ever go to Sarah's Instagram page and you also go to her website and you watch her stories, it's very interesting to hear that there's, on the other side of this, fear. Because to me, your content is so you. It is so unapologetically you. Your website has a lot of words on it, which some copywriters may be like, what are you doing? It's too much. And I'm like, that's Sarah. It's how she speaks. It's how she teaches. Then I'll go on Instagram and there's a post about easier orgasms. And I'm like, okay, that's Sarah. And then I'm going to go into your stories and you're like, look at my sensible sandals that I have on this business trip. And I'm like, also Sarah. It feels unapologetically you. But you're also saying that there is fear with showing up like that. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I just started sharing the stories like 3 weeks ago. Okay. I had to learn how to do it. But the summit has really motivated me. As I'm listening to you, I'm like, I am going to start. I'm like, whoa, this is a lot of work and it's really hard. But I am trying. And I'm giving it a go to see how it goes. So, but I mean, it's yes. Anyway, sorry, what was your question? I got distracted.
Fear. Talk to me about, it sounds like you're be scared, but Renee, what is this?
Okay, so I feel like, and the one thing I challenge in my group for my women to do is face fear. Because I feel like if you do not get in the habit of regularly facing fear, your comfort zone shrinks. So I feel like your comfort zone is this really dynamic thing, and it is always growing or shrinking, and it is moving depending on how much you are using it. Now, you can go way outside your comfort zone, and that can destroy you. So don't do that because there's something about stretching too far that is harmful, and that will make your comfort zone actually shrink. So do not put yourself out there more than you're ready for. But think, okay, what will stretch me a little bit? Whether it's sending a person you admire a message, something, making that video for Instagram, which luckily now we have Instagram. So that's an easy way to put yourself out there. Before, you had to like walk up to people and talk to them, and it all started with me, I think in my late 20s, I went through some life stuff where I was trying not to be a people pleaser, and I was trying to step outside of my comfort zone. And I just challenged myself to go up and talk to random strangers. So I would literally just walk up to somebody and be like, "Hey, I'm Sarah. You look nice." And I'd just start a conversation. They'd be like, "Whoa, this chick is really weird." But it got over a lot of fear. And I just feel like it's something that in my sport of climbing, where it's such a mental sport, and I continue to face that fear every time I get on the sharp end of the rope, every time I'm above a bolt. And then when I face the fear there, then I can take it back and be like, no, I can do this online webinar to 1,000 people, because I can step into that fear, because I know what it feels like to stretch my comfort zone, and I'm going to be okay. And so I feel like you can stretch your comfort zone in so many different ways. Go learn a new sport, go show up go to a movie by yourself, go to a restaurant by yourself. Just do something that you find uncomfortable in life, and it's going to grow you, and growth is beautiful.
I feel like you slipped that in there, and I'm not sure if anyone caught it. I feel like you have like a book title in there called Above the Bolt.
Above the Bolt.
Like there's something there. If you watch this climb, you'll understand what that means. I'm like,
yes. Yeah.
One, I just boulder. I don't do anything like that craziness. And it's only indoor. I like that.
Well, you know what? There's so much about climbing that I feel like I've been able to, and I'm not going to go on this whole big climbing thing, but I just feel like it's so applicable to life and business. And when you stand at the bottom of a climb, and I'm looking at it and I say, what is my fall risk? So basically, if I fall, am I going to hit a ledge? Am I going to break my leg? Am I going to slice the rope open on the edge of a rock and fall to my death? Like, what can go wrong? So what is my fall risk? And I feel like you can look at putting together your business, working with people. What is your risk? Do you have your consent forms in place? Do you know what I mean? So you can mitigate risk if you can look at the risk. So you stand at the bottom of the climb, you look up, you're like, okay, what are my risks? And you assess those, and you decide the risk are worth it. And then once you do everything you can to mitigate the risk, and then once you step into that space, you let it go. You don't worry anymore, because you've assessed your risk, you have acted on it, and now it is time to perform. So then you go and you focus on the next bolt. The fall might be 20, 30 feet, but you don't think about how far below your protection is, your safety, where you're at. You just think about where you need to get to and what is your plan to get there. And then you focus 100% on executing the plan to get there, not, oh my gosh, I'm so far away from my last bolt. Oh my gosh, the fall is going to be so big. Oh my gosh, because then your hands start sweating. You start over gripping, you start panicking, you self-sabotage.
Yes.
So this is what climbing has taught me about
phenomenal analogy. It's a phenomenal analogy. I think it ties in really well to what you just said about, gradually expanding your comfort zone, because it makes so much sense. And then we can also see that how practicing this and doing it over and over again allows you to create the evidence that you then start believing it. Because the first time you do it, you're like, but also I see that I'm all the way up here, so I'm still scared.
Yeah. But I see so many people self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, why can you just not do that to yourself? And so I feel like when we start stepping into that fear, then we get less afraid of success.
That part.
More excited about the process and just being okay with the outcome, whatever it is.
That part right there.
Yeah. So then we can just be like, okay, I'm going to focus on this process, and I'm going to do everything I can to reach it. And then I'm going to know that if I fail, it's going to be okay. I don't need to self-sabotage to give myself an out. I
think what you said there, I'm cognizant of the time too, but I don't want to pull out what
we're
you
good.
just said there,
Yeah.
because this is called the Secrets of Success Summit.
I'm having so much fun. You're the best interviewer.
This is like so fun.
You should have done
What
them
you
all,
just
not
said
me.
there. I love this. What you just said there, I think we talk a lot about failure.
Mhm.
You just said something that I don't think it's talked about a lot, is the fear of success.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that?
I feel like people are afraid. They're afraid they're going to make it. But more importantly, I think they're afraid if they give their all and then they don't succeed, what does that say about them? And that hurts, right? I mean, it hurts. That's who we are as a person. And I think we get too wrapped up in our success that we can't take that step back and realize that processes are about learning. And it doesn't mean it's who we are as a person, and that we can step into that path to success or whatever we're going to do with our whole hearts. I see it so much in prolapse recovery and rehab, because it's just such a devastating diagnosis that they are so scared, if they truly believe and give it everything, then what if? And I'm like, but what if it actually gets better? Why are you holding yourself back? But it's almost like they want to give themselves an out so that they can handle the bad outcome. And I'm like, but don't be afraid of the success.
Yes. This is incredibly powerful, that part right there. I don't think it's discussed enough, especially in spaces that are primarily dominated by women or people that have been socialized females. And it's not talked about enough. And I think that's a very, very big right there secret to success. It's huge, huge, huge. So with all of this in mind, and success, and kind of, we talked about the why and like why you keep it, but you're like, hey, I'm just floating downstream, I'm holding on.
I don't know. Yeah.
I'm in the boat. With all of this in mind, I went to your website, and one of the points that you wrote on there was, it's the first point actually that you wrote on there. I want to be a great mom, wife, and friend, but I also want balance and deem taking care of myself and following my dreams an important part of this. What is your dream?
Ooh, I love athletics. I love that stat, being able to have that part of my identity. I mean, I go to the climbing gym. People don't know I have kids. I mean, they think I'm like 20 something. I mean, probably not. I'm turning 42, but they have no idea I have a company. They have no idea what I do for a living. Do you know what I mean? I've got a whole side to my identity that is just pure passion for me, to strive hard, to work hard, to go for something. I need that for my sanity.
I love this. Has that dream changed over the years? Or that's just...
No, I think it's just kind of, I've switched sports. I feel like you got to be flexible with your dreams,
yeah.
But I've just always needed that outlet or that identity to be able to have something to go for that was not work, that wasn't family, that was something that gave me something different.
I love the continued theme throughout. Like, that was literally the first thing you said when I was like, what would you want people to know? Who is Sarah Duvall? And then you're like, I'm a wild sport person.
Well, you know what? I think so many people have online businesses. I mean, I just interviewed a ton of people doing the same thing I'm doing it really well. And so many people are moms, but not everybody, lead climbs and does crazy stuff.
It's you. It's you. It's you. It is so you. And I love that you put it first. And I love that when I ask you what your dream is, like, that is what I love that. So 2 more questions, and then I'll leave you alone. Number 1 is, if you had to go back, I don't want to say it that way. If, let's do Back to the Future. We got a DeLorean. We got all the things that we need. We got Doc in our corner, and we get to go back in time. Would you do anything differently?
There is one thing that I would do differently. There was an incident that happened where someone became upset with me about something that was not my fault in the online space. This person also became upset at many other people too. So, which I didn't find out till later, but it was on her. It was not on any of us. But I took it very personally, and it caused me a lot of stress in my life. And if I could go back, I would go back to that whole thing of falling back on people pleasing and just trying to care a little bit less and just realizing that I do me, other people do themselves. And if somebody doesn't like me, I am not doing anything wrong. I am showing up authentically. I'm showing up as myself. And I feel like sometimes when we look in a mirror, it might rub you the wrong way a little bit, because I often
Oh
find the
yeah.
people who don't like me, I'm like, well, you're actually kind
Oh
of like
yes.
me.
You're holding up them big ass mirrors now.
Yeah.
That's scary.
And so that's where I've always just found it really interesting to take a step back when I don't initially like somebody. Maybe I'm just like, what is it about? I'm like, oh, they remind me of myself.
Oh,
I'm like, okay, I like them now. It's fine. But it's so interesting. If you actually take a moment
right.
to think about why you don't like somebody, it is very eye-opening. I love psychology. I think it's really great. And I think we should all be going to counselors. But if I could go back in time, I would change. I mean, I would still be really upset about it because it was mean, but I wouldn't worry so much about it, and I would let it go a little quicker, and I wouldn't let it rob me of so much joy during that time period. And so the mature self of me now is just taking that forward and being like, you know what? Things move on.
It does. It does. I love this. I love that. Difference holds possibility. Don't forget that. Last question I got for you. Why did you make this thing? Why did you create this summit?
Oh, yes, the summit,
This. Yeah.
because of Ramit Sethi and Todd Herman and every male name that I can name in the business. Did I have Marie Forleo. But when you think about the amount of in cash pay PT practices.
Oh yes.
I mean, when you think
Oh yes.
somebody was telling me the stats for cash pay PT, and it was something like 10% of cash pay PT practices are owned by women or something like that. I don't remember what it was. It was or maybe it was like 60-40 or something. But okay, sorry, I'm totally butchering this. But the bottom line was there were 4 men in my PT class.
I was waiting for this part. I'm like, as I know this.
When I look around the classroom, there were 4 men.
Yeah.
But yet it's 60% of the owners of PT clinics, the people telling you how to do your business.
Yes.
And it just makes me angry because there are so many amazing women that aren't shouting from the rooftops of, hey, I can give you some advice. I have created this thing. I have worked my ass off. I know how to do this. I can have a seat at the table. Sheryl Sandberg would be really proud of me for using that term. So I just feel like there's so many incredible entrepreneur women. And so I wanted to put the summit together, one, because I was selfish and I just really wanted to make connections and sit down and talk to people. Yes. And then 2, I just wanted to showcase all the awesome people in our industry and just have a seat at the table.
I love it. I mean, I am incredibly grateful to have been part of this in any way, shape, or form. I totally agree that it's needed. As a fellow physical therapist, I've always felt the same way, where I'm like, the whole class is women. Every class is all women, and yet all of the CIs and the supervisors and the managers and the directors and the owners. Man,
what's wrong? What's going on there? Yeah.
So I thank you from the bottom of my maestro heart for doing this, because it's a big undertaking. I mean, it's also very much you. You're like, I just did it, but this is a big deal, and we are all incredibly grateful. Is there anything else? I mean, we've covered a ton. You've given us so much, but I want to make sure that your message and the things that you want to say get out there. Is there anything else that we didn't go over that you want to share, that you want to say?
No, there's nothing special about any of us. And that was what I was hoping to get across with the summit. We are all just normal people. I have so much fear with putting myself out there. I don't deal with imposter syndrome quite as much anymore, but I did probably the first decade. So I just want to say there's nothing, we're not bringing anything else special. Like, if you want to do this, step into the space. And so I think that was what I was hoping to get across with just talking about our fears and our things that, how we started out is we all started out in the same place. And so I think there's plenty of room. So thank you. You were amazing. That was such a great interview. I really enjoyed it.
Sarah, this was amazing. And if you're watching, thank you. This was awesome.